McLaren has just been pulled into the center of a storm that nobody in Woking saw coming, and the shock inside the team is undeniable. What began as a routine post-race check in Las Vegas has now escalated into a full FIA investigation, fueled by new evidence suggesting that the double disqualification of Norris and Piastri may not have been a simple technical oversight, but part of a deeper, systemic pattern. And this is where things turn serious. The FIA first flagged concerns back in Brazil. Practically overnight, McLaren went from championship leader to the team under the heaviest scrutiny in the paddock. The tension behind the scenes is higher than anything the team has felt in years. But now, the situation has reached a level that could reshape the entire championship. Before we go further, make sure you subscribe. It helps us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers and keeps news like this coming. The FIA is no longer checking only skid plank wear. They are now examining whether the unusual floor behavior seen on both McLaren cars in Las Vegas is connected to irregularities quietly identified a week earlier. And several teams were caught using questionable methods to minimize plank wear. And with the new evidence collected, the FIA wants everything: data logs, simulations, temperature readings, structural damage reports, the full picture. The detail that set off the alarm was this: both McLarens failed the same legality test in the same areas on the same night. That's not coincidence. That's not bad luck. And patterns point to something structural, not random debris, not a one-off impact, not an isolated mistake. Where the story flips. In Interlagos, the FIA noticed that some cars were running extremely low, yet not showing the level of wear expected on such a bumpy circuit. And that simply didn't add up. According to technical sources, the suspected trick involves heating the titanium skid blocks inside the floor. When heated, they expand, not millimeters, but tiny fractions, just enough to sit lower than the wooden plank. Result? Titanium hits the ground before the plank does. Titanium survives, the plank doesn't, and the FIA only measures the plank after the race. On paper, legal; on track, illegal. And the FIA caught on. After the sprint race in Brazil, Joe Bauer launched a major inspection and ordered several teams to remove suspicious components. And this is where McLaren's nightmare begins. Because if any team, even unintentionally, had been benefiting from this behavior, removing the trick completely changes how the car behaves. Where did the whole thing explode? Las Vegas. The worst possible circuit for a car on the edge. Long straights, cold asphalt, extreme braking zones, unpredictable dynamic ride height. If your car is on the limit and you lose a protection you didn't even know you had, the consequences are immediate. McLaren insists it was unexpected bouncing, floor damage, bad luck, or dynamic oscillation. All of these are plausible. The FIA wants to know whether the total picture explains the wear. Because the numbers were clear. Norris, 0.07 mm 0.28 below the limit. Piastri, 0.04 mm 0.26 or below the limit. Not catastrophic, but still illegal. More importantly, both cars failed in the exact same zones with the exact same wear pattern. That never points to chance, it points to systemic behavior. That's exactly what the FIA is trying to confirm. Did the wear come from unexpected porpoising, or did it appear in sections where McLaren didn't expect the floor to bottom out? If it's the second case, McLaren has a much bigger problem than they realize. The FIA will now analyze full telemetry, floor loads, damage logs, thermal variation, ride height by sector, and the exact moment the wear became critical. And there's another detail the FIA found interesting. Norris began lifting off far earlier than usual, before braking zones, behavior typically associated with fuel saving. Legal? Yes, but risky. The car was already on the edge. Cold track, high downforce, high load, aggressive consumption. One miscalculated millimeter and the floor touches. And once it touches, it wears. This doesn't prove wrongdoing, but it proves McLaren was operating on a razor's edge. And now the FIA wants to know whether that razor had been artificially protected before. What makes everything heavier is that Norris leads Verstappen by only 24 points. Piastri is tied with Max. The title fight is on fire, and McLaren must now run higher, more conservatively, and cleaner than ever. Running the car 1 mm prepared too low could end their entire season. The pressure in the garage is being compared to Mercedes in 2016. Every micro mistake is now fatal. And there's more. Jos Verstappen hinted that some people already knew the McLarens would be disqualified. Whether that was observation, internal chatter, or psychological warfare doesn't matter. The damage is done. The whole paddock is now watching McLaren with suspicion. Investigation is not political, it's preventive. The FIA wants to confirm whether the Vegas issue was accidental, prevent the titanium trick from resurfacing, enforce more conservative models, and protect the final 2 races from another double disqualification. McLaren is under a microscope. Every ride height change, every simulation plan, every stiffness adjustment, every consumption calculation, everything goes through the FIA's filter. And this level of pressure is brutal. Not with such a close championship, not with 2 drivers fighting Verstappen directly, not when McLaren is literally 1 millimeter away from catastrophe. And that brings us to the critical point. Qatar is not just another race. It is the first race under active investigation. The moment McLaren must prove, live, that they fully understand what happened in Vegas. They must deliver flawless execution, consistent simulations, predictable wear, 0 irregularities, strong pace, and complete transparency. Because whatever happens in Qatar decides everything. If McLaren runs too high, they lose performance. If they run too low, they go straight back to the FIA room. The gap between legal and illegal is now the thickness of a human fingernail. Norris, plus 24 points. Piastri, tied with Verstappen. The entire championship is teetering on a hair. Now it's time to wait for the next chapter, because McLaren is walking on a wire. And if you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next.